Welcome to 50 Plus in Montgomery County, a monthly program that is a voice for many, produced by the Commission on Aging, of which I'm a community member. This show is insightful for people of all ages, and each episode takes a fresh look at important issues by spotlighting older adults in the community, representatives of services and programs, and activities of interest to older adults. My name is Katie. On this month's show, we're going to talk about Longevity Ready Maryland. But before we get started, I want to take time to honor the life and legacy of a great man, a true Montgomery County hero, a man committed to excellence and service leadership. This person is none other than Austin Heyman. Austin had been a wonderful volunteer in our county since the 1970s, and he worked with people of all ages to better their lives through advocacy. He and his wife Barbara devoted themselves to every aspect of community involvement, from children and educational issues to intergenerational and cultural understanding to advocacy for older adults and the disabled. Austin is a community icon, a visionary, an inspiration to residents of all ages in Montgomery County. Austin Heyman's leadership contributions on behalf of county residents span several decades. They include serving as the first chair of the Montgomery County Commission on Children and Youth, president of the Montgomery County Council of PTAs, member of the Maryland Task Force on Guidance and Counseling, delegate to the White House Conference on Aging, chair of the County Commission on Aging, promoter of the senior leadership component to Leadership Montgomery County, senior fellow in the Office of Community Partnerships, and co-chair of the Age Friendly Montgomery Group on Civic and Social Involvement. Austin is perhaps best known by the public as the moderator of two television programs on Montgomery County Cable. One is this show in particular, which was formerly known as Seniors Today and Montgomery Citizens Agenda. Austin's visionary leadership and lasting impact is realized through many of the services and programs offered in Montgomery County. 30 years ago, he established a nonprofit called InterAges, which in 2012 merged into the Jewish Council for the Aging, or JCA. Today, the JCA Heyman Interaging Center, named in his honor, offers a wide variety of intergenerational programs. He also initiated, Montgomery County's Vital Living Initiative in 1999, which continues to shape senior services and programs and plans. He proposed the Senior Leadership Montgomery program, and it has been offered again since 2002. Austin taught us that to everything, there is a season. He certainly lived all the seasons of his life well. May his memory be a blessing to all of us. Joining us to talk about Longevity Ready Maryland is the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Aging, Secretary Carmel Rokes. Secretary Rokes is a visionary leader. She's dedicated to improving the lives of older adults and their families. She's known for her multi-sector, collaborative approach to planning and preparing for healthy, longer lives in Maryland. Of course, she's very accomplished. She has more than 30 years of experience as an executive, transforming nonprofit organizations and building strong cultures. Her expertise includes dementia, palliative care, strategic planning, organizational development, community health, and service delivery models for older people. Hi, Secretary Rokes.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, we're thrilled to have you as well. Well, let's jump right in. As you know, Governor Westmore signed an executive order in January establishing the Longevity Ready Maryland. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, what it is, and the key features?
So I'm going to back up a little bit and just talk about what do we mean by longevity. So one of the things that I decided that I believed would help us move forward the agenda of centering the well-being of older people, their caregivers and their families, and all of the work of our state government. One of the things I thought that would really help us move that forward quickly was if we pursued this idea of looking at longer lives, not just older people. And we were able to frame this work in a way that was more inclusive and began immediately to put forward a framework that would say older people are not other, they're not over there somewhere. Older people are all of us because we are all living longer lives. And that's basically what longevity means. It's a demographic phenomenon. There are more people living longer lives than ever before in the history of the world. And it's because of the great accomplishments that came before with, sanitation, immunizations, all those things that mean we don't hopefully die in early childhood or mid or late life. The other part of it is this isn't just about life expectancy. So there's a lot that's about life expectancy. You read about it all the time. And one of the things you read is that America's life expectancy actually is declining a little bit, which is a scary thing. Life expectancy is something that each of us individually experience. Overall, life expectancy is longer than it's ever been in the history of humankind and getting longer. We know that we have the capacity to live to be centenarians, to live to 100 years, and more people are doing so. And so when I thought about how can we promote and really center the well-being of older people in Maryland, in both the work of government and just sort of generally in the way we think about it, I thought, let's talk about all of us living longer lives. And what does that mean? And there's a great book out now, and I really recommend it for people. It's called The Longevity Imperative. It's by Andrew Scott, who's written several books actually about longer lives. And he makes a point that I'm trying to make frequently now, which is the first longevity revolution, it's already happened. We're living longer all across the world and right here in Maryland as well. So we can expect 25% of the population to be over the age of 60 in about 6 years. That's dramatic. And it's happening all over the country and it's becoming a serious issue people are looking at. The second longevity revolution is the one that I'm participating in actively and really hope our state government and multi-sectors across the state can. And that is, how will we live our longer lives? That's really the critical issue now. Will we be, as I, told the committee that approved my being appointed to this position, I want to see all Marylanders, but particularly older Marylanders, live lives that are healthy across the full life course, financially secure, well connected, socially connected, and purposeful. So that's my big intro to what is executive order and what is all of that about. So really what we did was we're simply calling the work of the department longevity ready. It's embedded in what our statutory requirements are. And one of the ways to begin that work in a very concrete way, so it's not just an idea, is to have a process in place for planning for how will we have these better, longer lives. And so the first step in that was to become part of a Center for Healthcare Strategies model for planning. And they call this multi-sector planning. And we started that process by promoting to our governor that we thought an executive order which formally makes longer lives and preparing for longer lives part of the administration's agenda. And it actually makes it formally a part of the work of state government in Maryland for 10 years.
Wow.
And that, I can't really emphasize enough how important that is. If you, most of us don't go around thinking every day about how does state government work, and but to have that in statute, in law, as an executive order that says, yeah, we're going to do this, and in the following way. So it lists things that we'll work on. It really means that this is the central work, both for our state unit on aging, the Department on Aging, but also we're going to center the work of the government around this. It's not going to be something that's sort of left over on the sidelines. And for me, that's very exciting. That gave us the sort of foundational piece that we needed. So when I say longevity ready, it's an initiative, it's a framework, it's a positioning, it's the work of the state agency, and it's everything we do to really take part in this second longevity revolution, which is how will we live to have better outcomes than we have in the prior years.
I really liked how you framed that. Made the statement that obviously people are living longer, and even people in Maryland are living longer than ever before. Excuse me. But now we're in the house stage. Is
Right.
there any other ways that you can discuss how you're working with the state? I know you mentioned that center, but are there other agencies specifically that you're working with? Since you mentioned finance is a part of this, right? Our health
Yes.
is a part of this.
Yes.
Just thinking about others, state agencies you might work with.
So part of the strategy for Longevity Ready Maryland, really embedded in that, it's cross-sector
Mm.
work. So it's cross-agency work plus multiple sectors, philanthropy, private business, academia, research. Specific to state government, we have had some wonderful early accomplishments in terms of our cross-sector work. So one of the things we recognize is, the Department on Aging, it is a cabinet level position, which is not true in every state. So we already had the advantage of this is cabinet level. This is not, sort of well, the department, the unit on aging isn't, housed in the Medicaid unit or, in another department. It's its own thing. But we are small, um, and we need to be able to leverage our resources in ways that really look out across state government and say, how can we maximize what can happen here? Part of it is just influence. It's being at the table. So the Department on Aging staff participated actively in the development of the 5-year Maryland Health Plan that will be, I don't know if it's out in public comment now or not, but we worked on that over the last couple of months. Where being at the table means there were voices talking about older people and the implications of the decisions on older people and how can we best promote health and well-being for older people, their families, their caregivers. We participated very actively, and we still do, on the governor's workforce development board. And workforce is a huge issue when you're looking at health access and also caregiving. And so being able to be at the table, influence the structure of those plans, and be actively in that sort of dynamic conversation. Um, one of my colleagues recently said to me, if you're not at the table, you are the lunch. So we're very happy that we're not the lunch, we're at the table.
Mhm.
So those were two things, and then we also have developed a couple of technical assistance projects. So one is with the Medicaid unit, long-term care services and supports unit, and we're working with them with a technical assistance grant to look at how can we improve the delivery system for Medicaid services for older people, for long-term care services and supports, and how can we really effectively leverage the area agency network in that work, as well as use our pre-Medicaid dollars for people who don't qualify under the guidelines for these programs to be supported through Medicaid. What can we do with our state dollars, our sort of pre-Medicaid dollars in our senior care program, for instance, to kind of help people either bridge over who may at some point qualify for those services, or help people who are never going to qualify for those services. The other technical assistance program we're working on right now that I think is on a very granular level, so significant. So we participated in applying for a HUD grant from the federal government with the Department of Housing and Community Development and disabilities and health and the Department on Aging. So collectively, we did a fabulous job of bringing federal dollars into Maryland. But the purpose of the technical assistance work is to look at ways that we can prevent people from becoming unhoused and to keep people who are housed safely. And that's a very big issue right now because housing is so expensive
Right.
across the country. But in Maryland, I know Montgomery County has huge issues around that and is working on that really actively. And we're hopeful that this work will help introduce very specific interventions and strategies that will help older people who are becoming unhoused because they
Mhm.
can't pay their rent or because they have caregiving needs that they can't pay for
Mhm.
or myriad other things that contribute to that, that'll slow that and keep that number of people from growing, which it is growing in Maryland
Mhm.
right now.
To that point, you mentioned cross-sector issues and how you'll be working with various agencies. Longevity Ready Maryland, obviously you're gonna, coordinate the services to kind of address like economic and social needs, which also contribute to us living our healthier lives, our how, what you mentioned earlier. So with that in mind, how will you work with Montgomery County? How can Montgomery County support you?
So Montgomery County's already been very supportive of the department in that your Commission on Aging is very active, and we've had a lot of opportunity to come and do sort of stakeholder work in the county alongside the county, been invited for that. And we also are working really actively around developing the village model. And we actually lifted up in our most recent Longevity Ready Maryland newsletter, Pasit Aviv, who is the person who is the village coordinator
Yes.
in Montgomery County. And we worked with um, our legislatures to be able to put a 3-year model in place that will allow actually Montgomery County to use their expertise in the model to help reach into underserved communities
Mm.
and help them develop village models. And for people who don't know what the village model is, it's really a volunteer-based older people helping older people in in close community, neighborhood community. But it isn't just older people helping older people, it's finding ways to connect older people to resources that are available and also to engage other generations and really
Mm.
create community based services and supports and connection. And this is a very big focus for the Department on Aging, which
Mm.
is strengthening communities in their abilities to help um, older people, live and thrive in those communities. The village model is just a great way to be able to focus that work. And so we're pretty excited when um, the legislation passed, and we'll be getting to work on that.
What do you expect to happen in the future? You mentioned, looking 10 years ahead, but I want to get more of your perspective about an outlook moving forward.
So that's one of my favorite questions. Thank you for asking it. Um, I got very interested in this idea of how can we really improve outcomes for older people. Way, way, way back in when I started my career many, many years ago as a young social worker, actually in a nursing home, and it became sort of a central passion in my life. And I began to do more reading in the field around sort of the demographics around longer lives, and then just more generally how the fact that we have this great opportunity now as human beings to live to be 100, and sort of what does that mean for all of us? And I got interested in reading some of the work of the Stanford Center on Longevity, I would recommend people, check them out. And they actually proposed about 2 years ago a 100-year map of life.
Mm,
And what I like about that is it's very specific. It's like, okay, the way the map of your life as an individual and as a society, the way we sort of frame people's life course, was based on living not to be 100, but maybe living to be 40 decades and decades ago, then maybe 65, about the time we developed Social Security, you weren't really supposed to live long enough to collect it. And then, okay, so maybe a little bit longer than that. We've seen various things develop to support people living longer lives, but not really any actual change in the way we think about that and the way we structure society. So I like to have us step back for a minute and say, well, if you're going to live to be 100, and you live to be a healthy 100, how can we make that happen? And also, what might that look like? And it might look like the fact that education becomes something much more fluid and happens all through your life. Family caregiving might look very different when you have children, their parents, their parents' parents, and their parents' parents all
mm,
alive. Um, the world of work might look very different because people might drop in and out, and people will work many, many more years potentially. They'll be healthy, they'll be connected, they'll want to do that. So it isn't just that individuals won't at 65 uh, start playing golf every day for the rest of their life until they die at 100. It means that as a society, we also have to reframe all
mm,
of that and think about how that can be different. The other thing I like about thinking out ahead is it engages our imaginations and it lets us get a little bit out of the doom and gloom aspect of growing older. We live in an extremely ageist society. It's embedded in the way we view the world. And older life is dreaded. It's seen mostly as a negative. And so, besides reframing that and helping us to think differently about living longer and later life, both from an individual point of view, but also from a societal point of view, if we can just free ourselves up from a moment from thinking about right now, how are we going to care, for people who are becoming unhoused? How are we going to feed people who are hungry? How are we just for a moment step back from that and think more broadly about the systems implications, the
mm,
broader society implications. And then it gets really exciting. And I'm kind of a born optimist, and I feel very joyful when I take that perspective. I feel a bit overwhelmed and deeply concerned and unhappy when I take just a near in older life is a burden. It doesn't, go well for most people, that whole scenario about how aging is such a dreadful calamity. It moves us out of that and it says, what is the world of possibility? And that
mm.
is a fantastic world that's ahead of us.
Mm. Secretary Rhodes, I could ask you so many more questions, but I do know that we're running out of time. So that means you'll have to come back and talk to us again very soon, as you're no stranger to Montgomery County, to the Commission on Aging. I know you've been a part of our summits, and we hosted you, and you've just been really great to us. But in your final comments, you've mentioned, things that have happened since the governor signed the EO, and what you expect to change in terms of the how and all the people who have a part to play to make all this happen. But I'm also curious, how does this fit with age friendly?
Mhm.
How does longevity ready fit with age friendly?
So I don't know if all of your listeners know what age friendly is, but uh, I think of that in terms of the World Health Organization's age friendly movement, and then it's franchised in the United States through ARP. And in Maryland, there are local counties and cities that have taken on achieving this status as an age-friendly community. I think that the age-friendly movement and the way it is set up and working well in some counties, moving forward that whole agenda across, I think there are 6 domains that get worked on to make a community age-friendly, that it provides a natural, very organic, almost seamless connection to doing the work of Longevity Ready Maryland. And so as we're actually, we're required to have an end product of all of this. So the work of the agency in statute includes planning, policy, legislation, and advocacy. That's ongoing work, whether I'm secretary or someone else is. Planning is ongoing work, but we also have to have a plan that we present to the governor in July of 25, and then a final plan in January of 26. And in order to do that, we have to be able to have people who are actively engaged already in this work or are experts in this work, older people themselves who can inform the plan. And we're working to come up with a set of recommendations that then go into the plan that then over the years are attached to legislation, funding, policy positions. So the age-friendly movement provides a natural network of people already engaged that we are going to link to through the advisory work and the stakeholder work and our listening sessions and those kinds of things, that we're going to link to the actual recommendations that go into the plan. And that's may sound simpler than it really is. That it's that being sure that we get folks to the table and get the recommendations that we need, get them in place and get them into the plan is really important. But I think more importantly, and what I'm hoping will come out of this, will be that the initiative, Longevity Ready initiative, will continue in this sort of dynamic conversation and connection among the network. The ecosystem is the word we all use now, that's actively engaged in this, in longer lives that are going to actually be healthy and financially secure and purposeful and connected. And that's not one and done. That's not just the plan. That's what I'm excited about. It's like, let's get this conversation and this dynamic connection moving the work forward. Because, it's hard for people to get really excited. When somebody tells you, I can't afford my rent, and while there are things maybe specifically that are available to help that person, the thing I can tell them as the Secretary of Aging is, well, we have this thing called Longevity Ready. And over the next 10 years, we're going to promote legislation and funding that might really make it better for you so you can afford your rent. So it's this sort of, how do we care for older people now and meet their needs? And how do we plan so that we don't have older people saying to us in 10 years, I can't afford my rent.
Right.
I don't have enough to eat. I can't get to the doctor.
Right.
That's the point. That's the point of the whole thing. So that was a long answer.
But that was a really great answer, and I do love your enthusiasm and your usage of the word ecosystem, because it really will take all of us and so many collaborating parts working together to make Maryland. There's participate in Longevity Maryland, but also live longer and healthier lives. And then we get to that how piece that you were talking about. So we're so grateful that you came on to share with us today, and we're really looking forward to having you come back.
Thank you. I think I'm going to be in Montgomery County sometime soon for the Reframe Aging work that's being done.
We look forward to
That's a whole nother segment. Invite me back up.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much, Secretary.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Well, that concludes our program for today. As you can see, the voices of those 50 plus matter every day and in every way. To learn more about services for seniors in Montgomery County, please visit the Montgomery County Seniors website by visiting montgomerycountymd.gov/senior. Call the Senior Resource Line at 240-777-3000. And as always, thank you for watching 50 Plus in Montgomery County.